What up, everybody? It's George Langevere with Silver Hammer Surveillance. Here on the channel, we talk smart home tech, we talk home security, and then unfortunately, I've been sharing my journey with a cancer diagnosis that I've had recently. And so we've been trying to stick to our normal content, but we've kind of been going back and forth because I'm trying to share my cancer journey, not only just because so many of you have reached out to me and have cared, which is wonderful and I appreciate it so much, but also to spread the awareness and get the word out there and share my experiences to maybe help somebody out there. And so today, unfortunately, as much as I hate the topic because I hate having it, I'm going to talk about my entire journey from start to where I'm at now. So that's from my symptoms that got me in this mess in the first place, all the way to where I'm at now, which is chemo, FOLFOX chemo. So I've had so many people of you that have reached out to me because of the cancer videos that are going through battles and have different questions. And you've been asking me, because I've had kind of a roller coaster situation since I got diagnosed, so I've kind of gone back and forth in my videos. So I thought for you people that were just asking me these questions, I'd just do from start to finish and kind of try to explain my entire situation and hopefully answer a lot of those questions. So that's what it's going to be all about. Now I'm going to put chapters down below so you can skip around, because I'm warning you right now, and I don't want to say this, and never in a million years did I think when I got on YouTube I'd be saying this, but the first chapter is going to be called poop. Because that's colon cancer that I have, colorectal cancer, and unfortunately, as part of the conversation, we got to talk about poop. So anyway, the chapters are down below. If you want to skip this first part, feel free. I wish I could skip it, trust me. But I can't, and I'm going to talk about it because that's the number one question I get, what were my symptoms? What made you go in? So there's obviously a lot of people out there that might have a similar situation that are wondering if maybe this is what they have. Maybe they should go in and get checked. So as much as I don't want to talk about it, I think it's very important. So let's start with my symptoms, and then we're going to talk about everything that happened after. So chapter 1, poop. Okay, so before we start talking about this subject that I've never thought I'd talk about in a million years on YouTube, let's just go back in time a little bit. Back in high school, I had what was called a pilonidal cyst, and it was a cyst on my tailbone. And a pilonidal cyst is the kind of cyst that can come back several times in your life. Now, it never came back for me, but it did present a problem for me. Number one, when I first had it, the surgeon that removed it kind of butchered me a little bit. And so I had a scar, and because of that, and basically it's just a cyst on your tailbone, it can be removed. But it was causing bleeding, when I went to the bathroom and that kind of thing way back in high school. So my problems with this area started back then. That's why this is important. So anyway, this doctor kind of butchered me, and I went to a plastic surgeon, and this plastic surgeon was going to do an operation to fix what the other doctor did. But in the process, he told me what I should do is called local wound care. And it was basically just cleaning the wound. And so I did that. And unfortunately, because it was on my tailbone, which is basically my butt, my entire life, I've been very in tune with that area, and I've kept myself very clean. I'm a germaphobe as it is, a neat freak as it is, but I didn't want that thing to come back. And just a little side note, this cyst was such a thing in my life that it actually got me kicked out of the Navy. My recruiters told me to lie about it when I went into the Navy in 1996. And so I did, and I got in, and then when I got there, I got a physical, and they saw this scar from this doctor that butchered me, and they said, this could come back and we don't want to pay for it. And I got an honorable discharge from the Navy. So anyway, problems with my backside have been a big deal with me since high school. So because I've been so in tune with it, sometimes I would clean myself so much that I would make myself bleed. So number one, I had the blood from the cyst in the first place, so I kind of saw what that looked like in the toilet. And then I saw the blood that I caused myself from just cleaning myself too much. So I've kind of been in tune with blood in the toilet. So this whole time, since high school until now, I'm 48 years old. All right, well, in July of this year, it's 2023 now. This is July of 2022. I started to have weird blood in the toilet, and it was in my poop. Not only did I start to have weird blood that I'd never seen before in those other two situations, but I started your routines start to change. Most people kind of have the routine in the bathroom. Well, mine started to change. And so in the mornings, instead of a normal outing in the toilet, I was having these very small, and I hate to say this word, but they were like little nuggets. They were just very small instead of a solid thing that you normally see in the toilet. And so not only did I have these little nuggets, and they were just very soft, and there were a lot of them, but there was also blood involved. And then then I started to go more often during the day. And so I'd start out with these nuggets in the morning, and then as the day progressed, I would have blood in what was normal, but they would actually be a little smaller. And now I think in the process that I found out that's because they were trying to go around a tumor in my colon. But anyway, so those were my symptoms. I had different blood than I had ever been used to. You know, people have hemorrhoids, and there are some normal situations where you'd have blood in the toilet. But I'd been so in tune with it that I knew this was different. And so I had the blood, and then I just had the change in habits. I was going more, and then those lovely little nuggets that I'd see in the morning, I knew that something was different. And now I'm a person that's usually very healthy. I might be a bigger boy, you know, maybe considered obese. People tell me I carry it well, thank you. But anyway, I've always been a bigger boy. Other than that, I've been very healthy. I've had one surgery in my life, and that was the pilonidal cyst. And then that's pretty much it. I didn't even have a primary care doctor when this started because I very rarely go to the doctor. I had a couple bouts with vertigo back in the day. I shouldn't say back in the day, about 2010 on. Anyway, so I went to the doctor a couple times for that. But otherwise, I'd never really been to the doctor, and it had been years since I'd been to the doctor. So when I was having these change in habits, I told Teresa, something's not right. And for me to say that out loud, you know something's wrong, because I just never had to go to the doctor. And Teresa thought it was weird. So she had actually just got a new primary care physician. She suggested we schedule something with him. So I went in there and scheduled a physical because it had been a while. I'm 48 years old. No harm in getting a physical. So I did. I got a normal physical, and then also told them about the situation in the bathroom. So he checked it out as much as he could, my backside. Couldn't really tell much in his position, so whatever, no fault of his. But he suggested I get a colonoscopy. Now, a colonoscopy, you know, it used to be that you should get one after 50. Again, I'm 48. Now that age has actually changed to 45. So the next chapter in this story will be colonoscopy. So let's talk about that. Okay, so a colonoscopy, you know, I think some people just dread it so much. And I was in that category, but again, I knew something was wrong enough to get me to the doctor, so I was willing to get one. I was on board. But so just to tell you a little bit about the colonoscopy, don't dread it. Please get one. And I'm up to 57 colonoscopies, I believe, confirmed. And actually, I will tell you this, that at least two people, you know, a lot of people have said that they got one and confirmed that they got one with me. But two people have ever come back to me, and actually one told me that they found 2 precancerous polyps because of a colonoscopy. And then another person told me 1 precancerous polyp. So luckily it wasn't to the point of cancer, and they're going to get those removed. And it was because they watched my video, and that just makes me so happy that they did that. But yeah, I'm up to 57, and that just makes all of this poop talk worth it. So please, if you are over 45, male or female, get a colonoscopy. I'm here to tell you, I'm standing here right now telling you that it could save your life. Now, it's not that bad. The worst part about it is the prep. And, you know, I've been told that there's different types of prep. Unfortunately, I apparently did not get the good one, which involves Gatorade. I got this big jug, you can see it here, and it was horrible. You stay up, you can't eat anything, you drink this jug, and it's just ridiculously disgusting. And it's basically, you mix this with water, and you just drink a ton of water, and basically what it's designed to do is clean you out so you can get scoped for the next day. And that part kind of sucks, but it's not horrible, and it's well worth it. And then the colonoscopy itself was nothing. They gave me some sedation, and I woke up and I thought I just fell asleep. I didn't even know that it was over. But they said, oh no, you're done. So the colonoscopy itself, not even a thing to worry about. It's just a little bit of the prep sucks. But apparently from other people, I've never been offered this Gatorade solution. If you do it that way, it's not bad at all. And the prep's not even that bad. But please, if you are over 45, male or female, the new age is 45, get a colonoscopy, please. So I went and got the colonoscopy, and when I was done, unfortunately they told me that I had 2 precancerous polyps and a mass that was large that they thought was cancer. The doctor thought it was cancer, and he had obviously done this a lot, and so that was alarming. So what they did is they removed the polyps. They were precancerous, and then you can just remove them during the colonoscopy. And then the mass was big enough that they couldn't remove that, and so we were going to have to get a biopsy on that. So I had 2 precancerous polyps removed, and then we had this mass, and then they sent that in that night for a biopsy. And the very next day, that doctor called me and told me, yes, it's colon cancer. And I'm telling you, that phone call sucks. You just don't even know how to react. It just hits you like a ton of bricks, and it sucks. But what are you going to do? You got to move forward. So I got this confirmation that it was colon cancer, and then we determined the next steps. Okay, before I move on, I just want to give you a quick timeline. So those symptoms that I noticed were in July of 2022. I got into my primary care doctor the next month because I gave it a while just to make sure that it wasn't just some passing, I don't know what it was, a bug or whatever it was. So then I went to my primary care doctor in August, and unfortunately, they couldn't get me into the colonoscopy until October, and it was actually October 5th. So I went from August to October in between and got the colonoscopy on October 5th. So after the colonoscopy, we scheduled a CT scan. And a CT scan is just basically some imaging that they can determine what's going on in your body. It's the most basic way to check out what's going on. And when they did that, they also not only, were looking for the tumor and exactly where it was for the colon cancer in my colon, but also they were looking just for anything else. And they happened to notice that I had 2 spots on my liver. And just so you know, colon cancer, so there's different stages of colon cancer. Stage 1 is basically contained in your colon. Stage 2 is started to go out a little bit from your colon. Stage 3, it's got into the walls of the colon and it's starting to spread into your lymph nodes. Stage 4 is it's spread to other places. Now, colon cancer most often spreads to your liver and your lungs first. So the lymph nodes are the little carriers, and those little bastards start to carry it, and the liver and lungs are the primary places that it goes for colon cancer first. So the CT scan made it look like there were 2 little spots in my liver, and then I also had some enlarged lymph nodes. Now at that point, we started talking about my colon surgery because that was going to be the next step. So we were hoping that these 2 spots from the CT scan, they thought these 2 spots might be normal because people just have liver lesions. It's just a thing that happens, and they can be normal, and some people don't do anything about them. They're just there. And then the lymph nodes they thought might have been enlarged on me just because I had cancer in my colon, and the lymph nodes nearby were basically just a little enlarged because they were pissed off. They were close to the cancer and they were just kind of irritated because of that. So that was the hope. And if that was the hope, then I would still be in stage 1 or 2 where it hadn't spread very much. And then I would just get a colon surgery. And basically what they would do is they'd take out a few inches of my colon where the tumor is, and then some surrounding tissue around it, and then they took out like 10 to 15 lymph nodes. I can't remember how many lymph nodes nearby, but they took them out to biopsy them and make sure it hadn't gone outside my colon. So at first, that's where I was at. I was going to get that colon surgery. We thought that we were going to do that and I'd be good. They were just going to, I would be in recovery for 4 to 6 weeks after that surgery. Basically everything would, heal and I'd be good to go. And that's where we were at. So when I say this is a roller coaster, that's where we started, thinking I was just going to be stage 1 or 2. We were going to get this removed from my colon. Life was good. So that CT scan basically showed these 2 spots, the enlarged lymph nodes. And then I met with the surgeon that was going to do my colon surgery, and he basically confirmed the same thing. He thought the tumor that I had was in a good spot. Basically, there's a good side and a bad side on your colon if you have a tumor. One side's more aggressive, one side's less aggressive. Mine was on the less aggressive side. It was in a spot that was good for surgery. Basically, if it gets too low, then it becomes rectal cancer, and that's a whole different situation. But mine was high enough that they thought they'd just be able to do a surgery. So they thought I'd have the easier of the surgeries. Basically, there's a surgery where they have to go in and tear you open, and you have a big scar, and it's just more invasive. And then they had a laparoscopic option, which is just little incisions that heal better, and it just makes it an easier surgery. It's less time in recovering. And they thought that's what I was going to be able to do. So at first, it sucked that I had cancer, but it seemed like it was as optimistic as it could be. So I met with the surgeon, and he confirmed all this, and we had that scheduled, and then we were on to the next step. Okay, so that next step was getting an MRI. So the CT scan's like basic imaging. An MRI is a little more detailed imaging, and they were just hoping to get a better shot of those liver spots to make sure that they weren't something else other than the normal lesions. Maybe get a better shot of my lymph nodes, see what was going on in there. And then the MRI part became a little bit of a debacle. If you've watched my past videos, or follow us on Instagram, by the way, because I give more updates on Instagram For so many of you that are asking me all the time, and I appreciate your support so much, follow me on Instagram because I give health updates a little easier there. But anyway, so they just wanted to confirm in more detail that this is what we were doing before I got this colon surgery, just to make sure that everything was what they thought. All right, so my problem was, who knew I was claustrophobic? So we had two things scheduled. We had an MRI to see the spot of the tumor exactly, so they knew where I was getting the surgery exactly. And then I also had one for my liver. So we started with the one for my colon location. And who knew I was claustrophobic? I got in the smallest tube you can possibly think of. When you get an MRI, you go through the tube, and there's different sizes. They put me in the smallest one possible. So I couldn't move my arms. It was right on my face. And I've never really been claustrophobic before, but it really got me. And they start to tell you that you're going to be in there for like 35 minutes, and they play music, and they try to get you through it. And every health professional involved in this process has been amazing. But man, I just got claustrophobic. And when I started to think about how long I had to be in there, I just panicked and asked to get out. At first, I just asked to get out for a break. But then once I got out, they said, "Do you want to just reschedule? We've got a bigger tube. You want to reschedule?" I said, "Yes, if you got a bigger tube." Why wasn't I in the bigger tube in the first place? So then we scheduled what's called an open MRI. And I thought when I read it, started researching it, and it sounded like open MRI, you had more room. So I got to that MRI appointment, and they showed it to me, and they said, "Do you want to just try it before we waste all of our time?" And I said, "Yes, please." So an open MRI is a much larger tube, and you could basically do snow angels inside of it to the left and right, but it was still right in my face. And it turns out that's what I had a problem with. So I got in there and tried it, and I was like, "Nope, this isn't going to work." So this was like at a special imaging center with the medical facility I've been going to. Then I was told that their actual hospital, they had a larger tube that was faster, and do I want to try that? So basically in the first MRI, I was in there long enough, the first one that was so small, I was in there long enough that they actually saw what they needed to see for the location of my tumor. So luckily that one kind of served its purpose, even though I didn't make it through the whole thing. So at that point, they determined I just needed to get through this bigger tube at the hospital for the liver MRI. And so basically I started researching, I started talking to all of you wonderful people, that my friends and family and supporters on YouTube, and you all started to tell me what to do, put a rag on your face and listen to music and basically take some Xanax. Xanax was a big thing. All right, so that's what I did. I took a Xanax in the morning, took a Xanax right when I got there. I put a rag over my face, and they were nice enough to even ask me what kind of music I wanted to play. I played some yacht rock, had some great tunes, but the Xanax really calmed me down, and I was able to get through that MRI no problem. So I was so excited about getting through that thing. I posted on Instagram, all excited, until we got the results. So the next step was to meet with my oncologist. And so basically I have a colon surgeon at this point, then I have an oncologist. The oncologist kind of the quarterback. He's the cancer specialist. We have at the Nebraska Cancer Center here. He's the quarterback. He's kind of running the show. He's got some surgeons to help him out, but he's kind of determining my treatment and where I go and all that kind of thing. So I was meeting with my oncologist for these MRI results. So I met with him, and you've heard me talk about him. He's very much like me. He's a very tell it like it is guy. I very much appreciate his approach. He's just straightforward, and this is what it is. We think we can do this, we think we can do that, and I appreciate that. Just tell me like it is, doc. So I met with him, and unfortunately with the MRI, his expert opinion was, looking at the results, he thought those spots on my liver were indeed cancer. So that was the bad news, and it hit Teresa and I pretty hard, because
yeah, it sure did.
Yeah, we thought at this point we're in the colon, we were going to get the surgery, and that was it. But he confirmed it. Now, at that point, he said, that makes it stage 4, because basically if it's spread anywhere, that becomes stage 4 cancer. And as most of you know, you don't want stage 4 cancer. That's the number that sounds so horrible. So because he thought that was cancer, he told me that it would be stage 4, but I was curable at that moment. So it was horrible to hear that stage 4 thing, but he didn't even want to talk about a prognosis, which is how long you have to live or whatever, because he thought I was curable. And so the thought was that he was going to put me in touch with another surgeon, a liver surgeon. He actually does all types of surgery, but in this case, he was going to be my liver surgeon. And that basically what they would do is the colon surgery. So one doctor would do my colon surgery, but while I was in there and out, they would actually do a liver surgery, because the thought was these two spots were very close together. They were on the same side of my liver, and that they could be removed. And if they just got those out before they started to spread in my liver, then basically that was curable. So that's where we were at when I met with my oncologist. Stage 4, but curable. Okay, so just to give you a timeline of the situation, so the colonoscopy was in October. We were starting it in November, and the problem was, because of all this, my fault with the MRI and different things getting delayed, we were pushing into November, and then we had Thanksgiving, and there was just a lot to coordinate, because next off was we had to do a few things. Number one, we had to do a PET scan. So we had the CT scan, which is kind of the basic imaging, MRI, which is a little more advanced imaging, and then a PET scan is specific for like cancer. Basically, what it is, it's just a live image of everything going on in your body, and it'll light up cancer like a Christmas tree. So just basically, when they see the results, they can kind of see where the cancer actually is. So the next steps were to get a PET scan. They were going to do an ultrasound. We were going to do a biopsy on my liver to 100% confirm that they were cancer. And then I was going to get a port placed in my chest. And the port is basically for just blood work. It's a much easier way to get blood. You don't have to go through your arm, because I was getting poked a lot for the MRIs and CT scans and stuff. So you get a port placed in your chest. I don't know. I'll show you a picture of it here. But anyway, you get a port placed in your chest, and then the biopsy to confirm the cancer. A PET scan to see exactly what was going on in my body as far as the lymph nodes and everything else. And then, so that was the next step. So first I had to get the ultrasound. The ultrasound was basically just to get, you get an ultrasound when you're pregnant and that kind of thing. It was basically to see the exact location of these liver spots, to give them a real image of my liver, to see exactly where they were, so they could biopsy those spots properly. So unfortunately, what I didn't know when I got this ultrasound is what the two lovely ladies that did that for me, they actually found a third spot on my liver, at least what they thought was a third spot. And I didn't know that at the time, but that's what the ultrasound found. So then we scheduled on a Wednesday, the PET scan. On a Thursday, I got this port inserted into my body. And then on Friday, I had the liver biopsy. So we kind of went from a period where I was doing nothing, and it was driving me crazy to do nothing, but it was beyond anybody's control. There was just a lot to coordinate and everything. But then we went to like hitting the ground running. So I got that ultrasound first, and then that next week I basically had 3 days in a row. And so I had that PET scan. Now I was a little worried about that, because it's kind of like an MRI. But again, I went in with some Xanax and listened to some good tunes. That tube was a little bit bigger. I successfully got through that PET scan, no problem. Then the next day I got the port, which was an actual procedure. And then the next day they got a biopsy. The port, they actually put me out to insert that, and that was actually done by my liver surgeon. And then the biopsy was done with another doctor who I had never met until that day. And that was I was actually awake for, which is very strange, because they put a needle in your liver to biopsy it, and you can see everybody around you. You're kind of out a little bit, but I remember them talking. They were actually talking about security, and I actually started to chime in, and the doctor told me I had to shut up because I was disturbing the process. But anyway, it was weird to see these people, but you couldn't feel it, but you knew there was a liver or a needle in your liver. Very strange. So anyway, I had those three things done. So at that point, I had a appointment right after that the next week to meet with the liver surgeon, because at that point we thought we were meeting with him to get the results confirmed from what my oncologist thought, and that he was going to start talking about the surgery that would be after my colon surgery that was going to cure me. Well, unfortunately, when we got to that meeting with the liver surgeon, he not only had the biopsy results, but the PET scan results. And what they had found was not only did the ultrasound correctly find a third spot, but the PET scan determined that I also had some microscopic spots in my liver throughout. And then what this became is a multifocal problem, because at first these two spots were kind of localized next to each other. We thought we were going to be able to remove them, but these microscopic spots and the third spot were on the other side, which unfortunately at this time, even today, we don't think they can operate on that. So that means that I had the colon surgery. And by the way, this is colon surgery spread into the liver. A lot of people don't understand that. They think you have liver cancer. Colon cancer basically can go to other places and still be colon cancer. So I have colon cancer that spread to the liver. And because of this multifocal thing, that at that point I became stage 4 palliative. Unfortunately, curable went out the window. at this time. Now, that really sucks to hear. And so it was a huge blow to Teresa and I. So not only did we hear it from the liver surgeon one day, but the next day we went to the oncologist and had to hear it again. And he told us in a little bit more detail because, like I said, he's kind of the quarterback and told me the whole thing. So we were asking questions, and basically he just told me because it's multifocal, basically if they tried to go in and remove the first 2 spots and you had cancer somewhere else in your liver, you're just basically taking, because your liver will regenerate. And so a lot of people, in YouTube land have told me, they've got the surgery where they got spots removed because your liver will regenerate. And that was the thought initially. But because they were in different areas of my liver, basically you can't operate on one side and then still have cancer on the other side. And then you're just missing part of your liver and it's a problem. So that's why at this point I became palliative instead of curative. And that sucks. So, but anyway, palliative, I think a lot of people think that means you're done. It's over. So that's not it. So there's palliative, then there's end of life, and then there's hospice. Now, palliative can be for all sorts of different conditions. It doesn't even have to be cancer. But basically basically you think about it as a reoccurring condition, but basically any type of condition that can come back several times in your life. Like diabetes, what's the other?
Blood pressure.
Blood pressure, high blood pressure, that kind of thing. Things that you have to monitor for the rest of your life. Palliative just means that they're going to do everything in their power to control those conditions to the best of their ability to make your life comfortable and make you live as long as possible, whatever the condition is. Now, as long as possible, I think the normal prognosis for stage 4 is 4 years. And the 5 years is the magic number for any cancer. If you can get what's called NED, no evidence of disease, which some people might call remission, but if you can get to 5 years with no evidence of disease, then basically you just have the same chance of getting cancer as anybody else. So 4 is the prognosis. 5 is that magic number that you'd like to get to, because if you get past 5, chances are you could live several more years after that. But he never, even though I was switched to palliative, he never mentioned the prognosis again. And that's because they do believe that what I'm going to do now, because I can't, so that surgery was canceled. The colon cancer surgery, the liver cancer surgery was canceled. And they decided that we're just going to go straight to chemo. Now, originally, they thought that maybe they'd do those 2 surgeries and still do chemo just to kind of knock it out. Because chemo is basically just going to shrink tumors, stop it from spreading, just anything small like those little spots on my liver, it could have just knocked it out completely. So originally my plan was the colon surgery, the liver surgery, and then possibly chemo. Now at this point, we just switched to straight on chemo. Okay, before we start talking about chemo, let's just talk about how you can be mentally in this point. Now, there's just so much information coming at you. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're trying to do this. And some people I just know don't take this very well. And I completely understand. And everybody has a different journey. And at first, I just didn't think that I was going to be in the stage 4 category. And your brain, it's a roller coaster of emotions, not only for you, but for Teresa, my mother, my daughter, everybody around you, and all you lovely people, my friends and family, and the YouTube community that's just flooded me with support. But mentally, man, it messes with you. But I'm here to tell you, through this whole thing, what else are you going to do? But be positive. You got to be positive. Everybody tells me so much of it is your attitude. I'm telling you, no matter what was thrown at me, I'm not a number. I think when you're stage 4, you're looking at that stage 5 or that 5-year survival rate. It goes down considerably, but there is still a percentage of people that make it. And there's no one telling me that I'm not going to be in that percentage that makes it. I'm not a number. I'm a stubborn son of a bitch. I'm a determined son of a bitch. I'm going to beat this. But mentally, it's a toll. And you start to accept it a little bit, but when you think you're going to leave this earth a little early, it sucks. And it messes with you. But man, what are you going to do? You got to fight. And so many of you have told me that you just lost hope and that you just stopped fighting and you stopped chemo, and that my videos have helped. And I'm telling you right now, look in my eyes, you got to be positive. You have to be positive. We can do this. We're in this together. And God damn it, none of us are just a number. We can all get through this, whether it's, hopefully you trust the doctors you're with, but it's second opinions or whatever it may be. Stay positive and fight, because you've got other people that are so worried about you and that you could leave behind, and you just don't want to do that. You just got to fight for every one of them. You got to fight for every friend, every family member, all the people that support you. You got to fight. And I'm a fucking fighter, and I'm going to fight. So anyway, chemo, that's where we're at. So we're talking about the oncologist. He's telling us what's next, and that's chemo. So I'm going to do 12 rounds of what's called FOLFOX chemo, and that's specifically for colon cancer. And it's basically just, the hope is it's going to burn out the spots in my liver, all of them. It's going to stop it from spreading. It's going to take out anything that I got going on in my lymph nodes, and it's going to shrink the tumor in my colon. And so I'm going to go through 12 cycles. At least that's initially what we're doing here. I've been through 3, and then I'm about to do number 4 on Thursday. And then after 6, we're going to do another PET scan and determine what's going on. Again, they think the PET scans are the only thing for me because we kind of missed what was going on with these liver spots in the MRI and the CT scan and the other things. So we're just sticking with PET scans because they're the ones that light up the cancer like a Christmas tree, like I said. So we're going to do that after 6 rounds. So I'm halfway to that 6. And then my oncologist and also the liver surgeon I spoke with, they are very optimistic in my case that the chemo is going to work. So I think the reason, they haven't exactly said my prognosis or whatever it is, because we don't know what this chemo is going to do. But if it works, it could be a significant impact to getting me in the right direction. So whether that means that maybe if it works and the liver spots seem to be gone enough that I get the colon surgery, whatever it may be, we got to make sure that the chemo works. So what I've done is I started in the middle of December, and I go in for 3 to 4 hours and I get an infusion. Basically, they take a bunch of labs and make sure you're all in good shape to do these infusions. And then you sit in a chair in a room, and basically they infuse you with chemo. And for me, it's been taking about 3 hours. And then they give you a pump that you take home. So I go in on Thursdays at 9:30. By the time I get in the chair, by the time I get out of the chair, it's about 12:30. And then they give me a MRSA. And it's a pump that basically infuses the chemo for them. And I wear it from basically when I leave on Thursday afternoon until Saturday morning at about 11 o'clock. And then from there, I go in, I have that removed. They hook it up to my port in my chest. And then on Saturday, I have that removed. And then I kind of start the recovery from chemo. So for me, there's a ton of different side effects for FOLFOX chemotherapy. Your hair can thin, you can get mouth sores, a bunch of nausea. There are so many different things, but the big thing is what's called neuropathy. And neuropathy can happen in your hands, your mouth, your feet, basically your extremities. And what it is basically just a nerve situation that the chemo affects that basically makes your hands numb and sensitive to cold. It kind of feels like, when your foot falls asleep, and not just falls asleep numb, but falls asleep where you kind of feel the needle feeling. Well, that's what it feels like. And after the first round, I just had it when I was in the infusion chair. So I went in the bathroom just to go to the bathroom. And when I washed my hands and in the cold water, I could feel it. But it only lasted when I was in that chair. And so for round 1, that's all I had was in the chair. I had that neuropathy in my hands. I didn't have it in my mouth. I didn't have it in my feet. And then when I got home, after I got my MRSA removed, I didn't have any nausea. You take some medication by default the first 2 days after your chemo to make sure you don't get nausea, and then they give you as needed nausea medicine. I didn't need the as needed nausea medicine, and the neuropathy went away. And after the first round, I felt pretty good. Like I said, I get it removed on Saturday. I felt pretty good right after that. And then I basically go until I go 10 days without any chemo. And then so it's like 2 days on, 12 days off, and then the process starts over again. And for me, it's going to be for 12 rounds. Now, I'm just finished round 3. And so basically what happens in the second round is they take some labs, see how you did from the first round. And then they also take what's called a tumor marker. Now, a tumor marker is a number it's about what's going on with your blood. And it's a tool in the toolbox, they call it. And it's basically a marker that kind of tells you what your tumor is doing and your cancer is doing. So a normal person has a tumor marker between 0 and 2.5. If you're a smoker, and even if you don't have cancer, you can be all the way up to a 5. All right, so then if you have a tumor marker over a 10, that means your tumor is getting aggressive, your cancer is getting aggressive. If you have a tumor marker over 20, shit has hit the fan and you've possibly got some problems. All right, when I started this process for round one, the labs they did initially, I was at a 7.9. Yes. And then after round one, I went down to a 7.3. And then, so basically they take all your labs, make sure you're good, and then they won't let you go into the next infusion. And, you know, they check your blood and make sure you're going to be strong enough to go through each one. Then they check this tumor marker. So after round two, I went down, my tumor marker went down to a 4.4. And basically after I think it was round one, after the couple days of recovery, my symptoms, my initial symptoms, the good old poop chapter, all those symptoms were gone. Everything in the bathroom went back to normal. So the fact that that went back to normal, the fact that my tumor marker has gone down, you know, I asked them, is that a good sign? And yes, they think that that's a good sign. So I went through round two, my tumor marker was down 4.4. So round two, no nausea again, still have my hair. Believe it or not, I'm wearing this hat today, but my hair's still all there. I shaved my head by choice. I've never been balding. I just grew my hair out a couple years ago. So basically I act like a different person when I have hair. Back when I was a loss prevention manager, I had to catch shoplifters. When I had hair, I was so worried about my hair. I was more worried about that than the actual fight when these shoplifters would fight me. And so screw it. I had to shave my head and got the tattoos, and I had to look a little more badass. So I shaved my head by choice, for all of you that wonder. But anyway, my hair is still there. My beard, I actually have to keep trimming it because it keeps growing in like a national forest. So I haven't really had the symptoms other than the second time the neuropathy actually lasted until my pump got removed. So I actually had it when I came home. Now, it's just in my hands, and I did have some in my mouth. Now, some people have a sensitivity to cold outside. I didn't have that until actually just yesterday, which we'll talk about in a second. But so I had it in my hands, I had it in my mouth, but I didn't have it in my feet. So that was round two. Then I went in for round three and got my labs done, and my tumor marker actually went down to a 2.7? A 2.7. So again, a normal person has a tumor marker between 0 and 2.5, and a smoker with no cancer can be up to a 5. So my tumor marker is almost down to normal, which is good news. And again, my symptoms are completely gone. So then that led to round three, which was last week or whatever. And so again, the neuropathy. Now, by the way, the neuropathy is one of the side effects that is expected to happen no matter who you are. There are some people that just can get riddled with side effects. There are some people that just have a couple of the side effects. Some people that just have this neuropathy. Now, luckily, so far, I've just been the guy with a little bit of neuropathy and fatigue. Fatigue's another big one. So after round two, my fatigue got a little worse. That was actually on Christmas. The next day after Christmas Day, I was actually pretty fatigued. Christmas Eve, I was great, spent the time with the family. Christmas Day, I actually sat in a chair all day. I was just tired as hell. But then after that day, I went to good. Now, this last round, I had a couple more days of fatigue, but the neuropathy was definitely worse. I actually had it in my mouth, I had it in my hands, and this time I actually had it in my feet. So even here in Silver Hammer Tower, when I walked on these hardwood floors, I had to put socks on because I could feel it, because here we are in the winter in Nebraska, and even though the heat's on in here, the floors are cold, I could feel it. I could feel that tingling. Now, it's nothing horrible for me. Nothing I can't handle, nothing that hurts. It's just weird. And it's just a numbness that, like, again, it's like when your feet fall asleep. So anyway, I had that a little bit longer. So here we are on Sunday. So I just got the pump removed last weekend. And so I just got a new bike, go on Instagram and check out my beautiful new motorcycle. I just returned to the Harley world after 5 years, which is very exciting. But anyway, it was 40 degrees when I rode that thing home. And by the time I got home, I really felt it in my hands. I had gloves on, but it was just cold enough, and you're riding a motorcycle outside. I could really feel it. Now the feet part is gone. The mouth part is gone. I can drink cold drinks, but I still have it in my hands just with really cold. Now I can wash my hands with cold water and that's fine. But when I rode the Harley home, I felt it a little bit.
Yeah, and with each round, they expect it to compile.
Yes.
Like it's one of those that compounds with each round.
Yes, so when you're doing chemo for colon cancer, you have the FOLFOX, and then you also have oxyplatin. Oxyplatin is kind of what helps the chemo be more effective, but it's what causes the neuropathy. Now, some people have to, so like let's say if we're going through 12 rounds, they think they'll probably stop that part of it after round 8. And just because it usually goes away after most people's treatment, so even if I would go through round 12 and it gets pretty bad, it usually goes away after that. But some people keep it forever, and that's what they're trying to prevent. So sounds like maybe round 8, I will stop that part of the chemo. But anyway, that's where we're at. That's my journey. So I'm going through chemo. Our next step is that PET scan after round 6. Again, I'm about to go through round 4. I'm going to just try to go back to our normal content after this until then, but I'm going to do an update then. Again, follow me on Instagram for any updates. I can just give you weekly updates there. It's a lot easier, but that's where we're at. So I think we're going in the right direction. After the 6th round, we're going to reassess everything and see what's going to go on. My daughter is getting married in 2 years. The doctor told me that I should get to that, no problem. He called it a breeze. I asked if I should start feeling sick, and that's another thing for me, and I'm gonna knock on everything I can knock on. I do not feel sick at all, and other than the chemo side effects, I haven't for this entire process. And I'm so thankful for that, because so many people have told me your stories, and man, am I thankful. And I know what some people go through, especially at stage 4. It's just weird, and that's what's scary about cancer. I'm stage 4, and if it wasn't for chemo and those symptoms in the toilet, I wouldn't know I had it. And that's freaky. Now, on one hand, for me, it's great that I'm not sick, but on the other hand, that freaks you out. I mean, so please get a colonoscopy, because you just don't know. I wouldn't know. So again, I was 48. I was right in between that 45 and 50. If I would have gone at 45, I probably would have missed this. But chances are I've had this for a while, so maybe I should have gone at 46, 47, but who knew? But if I would have gone when I was 50, I'd be toast. I mean, right now I got a pretty good shot at still fighting and beating this thing for several years. But if I waited till I was 50, I wouldn't be here telling you about it.
George, do you want to talk about some of the health changes you've made just alongside
Yes. Now, I will tell you in this whole process that they didn't necessarily, they have a dietitian, they give you some suggestions, but they didn't necessarily tell me I needed to change my diet. But again, I've always been for a long time, I've been a big boy anyway. I used to be a skinny guy, but anyway, the loss prevention thing, I had to bulk up to fight shoplifters. But that's another story. Go back on the channel and look at my shoplifter stories. But anyway, so I just, I've always should have changed my diet. I was a huge Mountain Dew guy. I drank 48 ounces of Mountain Dew a day for years. I joke with my mom, when I was 7, she got me addicted to zebra cakes. Those little suckers, delicious little suckers. I've always been a dessert guy. And so, I didn't eat lunch. I only had a bowl of cereal, then I had a big dinner. I've never had the proper diet. So right away, I threw away the Mountain Dew. I threw away the zebra cakes. I have switched to all fruits and vegetables during the day. I'm having more little meals of fruits and vegetables. I've added some protein. We're trying to eat good meats. We're trying to, do everything we can. We've talked to a dietitian at our oncologist office. She was very helpful. So I've completely changed my diet, and I've already lost weight. Now, they want me to stay plump to get through this chemo process, but I got plenty of excess beauty to shed still. And so I feel that the weight I'm losing is good weight, and in the process, I'm gonna get as healthy as hell. So when that tumor marker is shrinking, I can't help but think, is it the chemo and my diet, just the chemo? But either way, I'm gonna use this as an excuse to get in the best shape of my life. And right now, I'm the lowest I've been since 2009. So I'm losing some weight, but it's good, healthy weight. So if you see me getting a little skinnier, it's not because I'm sick, it's because I'm trying. I'm on Apple Shop, shout out to Sharika Holman, Apple Fitness. Here when it's cold, I'm riding the indoor bike every day that I don't have the fatigue. So it's pretty much every day except for 2 days during chemo. When it gets nice out, I'll be riding my bike. I'm big into cycling. I'm gonna lose some weight. I'm gonna become purely twisted steel and sex appeal. I don't care stage 4 or not, it's not gonna hold me down. And I can't help but think it's gonna help me through this process. So yeah, good point, Teresa. I have completely changed my diet, and I can't help but think that's helping. People talk about sugar causing cancer now. The oncologists say that's like a half truth. So, there's a lot of myths out there, and you gotta just trust the professionals, and that's what I'm doing. So people keep giving me tips on YouTube, and I appreciate your concern, but I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna listen to the team I have, because they're the ones that are gonna help me get through this. So no offense to anybody out there, and I appreciate your support. Obviously, anybody can tell me about a good diet. That's just common sense. So please, but any weird treatments or anything, I'm not listening. I'm gonna go through this chemo, and it's gonna work, and I'm gonna beat this thing. So that's my journey, start to now. So many people have asked me, especially about the symptoms. So I apologize about the poop chapter, but it is what it is. And I just want to close by, again, the outpouring of support from around the world. Strangers that used to be strangers who now are lifelong friends. Other YouTubers that have become brothers because of their support. And it's been crazy. My family and friends, the Facebook community, it's been unreal. Like, I've never been a crier, but if you watch some of my videos, I've broke down. Like, Teresa's never saw me cry, and she saw me cry a couple times now. It's just because of you. It's not because I'm sick. It's not, I mean, and that's the other thing about the positivity. You all keep me positive. Like, I have so many people to fight for. I mean, Teresa and Delaney and my mom and my family and friends are, but so many people out there are just rooting for me. It just makes it so easy to be positive and fight. So thank you so much. And I'm sorry I even have to talk about this, but the awareness is just so important to me. If I help just one person, and I already helped 2. I think I stopped 2 people from getting cancer that I know of. And if more people shared what happened with their colonoscopies, I think I probably would have helped more. And that just warms my heart like you cannot believe. And the people that told me that I helped them keep up their fight because they were losing hope and they saw my positivity, I'm not going to cry again. I swear I'm not. But those people, man, they hit me hard because that means the world to me that I've helped them. And I'm going to keep going. And that's why I'm going to keep talking about this till I'm blue in the face. I'm going to share my entire journey. And one day I'm going to be telling you that I'm free of disease. And who knows how long that'll last. Maybe it'll come back someday. Maybe it won't. But maybe I'll just kick this thing in the ass because that's the type of person I am. And that's my plan. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to lay people that wrote me off. Don't freaking write me off. Do I look like a guy you can write off? No. So I'm going to fight. I'm going to beat this thing, and it's with your support. And we call it the Langevere Fight Club. We call me the badass unicorn because my situation is very unique. It's been a roller coaster ride, but I can still beat it. And goddamn it, I'm going to beat it. So hashtag badass unicorn, hashtag Langevere Fight Club. You're all with me in this journey. We're going to beat this. And for you that are going through this journey with me, let's stick together. Let's beat this thing. We can do it together. That's it. So I'm going to try to keep coming back with normal content. Hopefully next time it's tech or security. I don't know. I'm trying to stick to some sort of schedule, but bear with me, please, because I'm not going anywhere. I will be back to normal someday. I will. We won't be talking about cancer. We'll be talking about me being a healthy, wonderful, vibrant human being. And until that day, peace and love.